So moving on to the next session, rural development and e-government services. I think this should be interesting. Our moderator for this session is Didier Nkurikiimfura, who is the Director General in charge of ICT at the Ministry of Youth and ICT here in Rwanda. So just a brief background on Didier. As the Director General in charge of ICT in my ICT, which is the Ministry of Youth and ICT, he's in charge of the country's ICT policy and strategy development and coordination. He has more than 12 years of experience in the ICT sector that he joined after completing his tertiary education. A national of Rwanda, he holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science and a Master's of Science degree in Software Engineering. Prior to his current functions, Didier worked in the Rwanda Development Board, where he served in the capacity of head of the IT Security Division, a division that plans, implements, and coordinates Rwanda's ICT security. Didier also worked at the Rwanda Information Technology Authority, where he respectively served as Director of the National Computing Center, the NCC, and Director of the National Data Center, the NDC. So without further ado, I would like to invite Didier, who shall present the presenters for the next session and lead the panel discussion. Like we did in the morning, let's keep this very engaging and learn from each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Aline, and very good afternoon to everyone. We have more people in the room. I hope all of you had a very good lunch and you are very energized for this afternoon session. As Aline introduced, we have a session that is going to talk about rural development and e-government services. This topic is very much relevant for, I believe, most of the people in this room because there is the majority of the constituency we are serving are residing in rural areas. So it's very important that any of the strategies that we will be discussing, that we discussed since yesterday, and what we'll be deliberating need really to reflect on how is it relevant for the rural areas. Now, maybe a bit of a recap of what happened since yesterday. You recall some of the people who were here in front in the panels talked about the benefits of e-governance and e-government services, because it increased transparency, it minimized the processing cost, especially for the government. It's become interesting because you have less processing costs due to the removal of the paper-based system, improve service delivery, increase accountability, I mentioned transparency, reduce also the processing life cycle of providing services, and so on and so forth. A lot, but most importantly, government look at citizen satisfaction and building confidence to the citizen that the government are really serving them. But having said that, we also aware that with the majority, especially in some part of the world, the majority of the population live in rural areas, there are also specific challenges. Maybe for purpose of numbers, globally about 46% of people live in rural areas. Now when you come to Africa, specifically Sub-Saharan Africa, you have about 63% of people living in rural areas. So though this tendency, the trend shows that with time, there are more and more people who will be living in cities. Currently, it is really a matter that really need to be looked at seriously. Specific for Rwanda, we have about 80% of people living in rural areas. I'm sure some of our neighboring countries here might have also numbers which are already above the average of 63% for Africa. Now, challenges, there are a lot, but there are also opportunities. So for challenges, number one, we have electricity. One of our presenters is going to talk about what they are trying to do, because ICT without electricity the potential will always be hampered without having proper access to electricity. In sub-Saharan Africa, again, we have about 33% of households with access to electricity. So it means 67% don't have access to electricity. Rwanda, we're above 24% with electricity, and we are aiming by 2018 to have 70% with all the investment being put on infrastructure. Connectivity, that's the second challenge. Internet users in Africa, the average of internet users in Africa per 100 people, we have 16, quite low. The overall, the global average is 38. So mobile telephony is on the growth. It's probably where we made enough sensible progress, because in average in Africa was about 66% of mobile penetration. Now, whether they are smartphones or smart devices, that's another question, because we realize that most of the phones which are available and what people use are actually feature phone, basic phone, they use for basic transactions. Access for the citizen on to have access to service, low income, and a lot of priorities, because we have priorities ranging for education, agriculture, infrastructure, health, and so on. So we have on one side a big potential with e-government. On the other side, we have some of the challenges which are also opportunities. And there is a big demand. Citizens want better service, quicker service. They want to be able to be served faster. And for government, it's also an opportunity, because those people who are queuing, requesting for service, or who have to travel 2 hours to get access to health service, to get access to education, to have access to government services, that's time which is lost. It's a lost opportunity for our economies. So today this afternoon, going to have the opportunity to discuss a little bit more. And we're going to start with our first presenter, who is going to talk about challenging government to spur economic growth in rural areas using ICT. We're going to have Mr. Juma Gandhi. Excuse me if I didn't pronounce properly. He's the immediate past chair of the Commonwealth Telecommunication Organization and the Director of Human Capital and Administration in the Communication Authority of Kenya. He has over 20 years of experience in leadership and management, spanning across financial services, development, and ICT sector. And in the past, he served as the chairman of the governing council of the CTO, and as an EXCO member. He is a council member of the Africa Advanced Level Telecommunication Institute, which is a regional training institute, and the chairman of board of Scripture Union Kenya, a faith-based NGO. He's also a board member of the Institute of Human Resource Management Kenya, and is actively involved in community-based development project. So Mr. Juma holds a master's degree in human resource development from Manchester City, a Bachelor of Commerce from Nairobi University, and postgraduate certificate in strategic management in National University of Singapore. He has also attended several courses, both within Kenya and outside, and has been a speaker in several international conferences. So we're going to invite him for a presentation, which will be the first one, and later on we'll also introduce the second presenter before we move to the panel discussion. So please help me to welcome our presenter for this first presentation.
Thank you very much, Didier. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to discuss with you today challenging ourselves on how we can develop the rural areas using ICT. And I will follow up with what Professor shared with us this afternoon, just a bit on statistics, and then we can look at the real issues and challenges facing our continent. As you may well know, we are the second most populous continent with a population of 1.033 billion. Professor indicated that in 2008, we were 984 million. So you can see we are growing very fast. And actually it's been projected that by the end of this century, we shall be clocking 4.2 billion. Well, the continent of Africa is very rich. It's rich in natural resources, but the poverty levels are still very high. If you look at our demographics, 65% of our population are still below the age of 35. And out of this, 35% are within the age of 15 to 35. So this means we have a very young population, and this means there is a very high uptake of ICT services, and our population is growing very fast. And also, when you run across the continent from north to south, east to west, you can see diversity of cultures. All these present huge opportunities for us as governments. And so we need to challenge ourselves today and also look in terms of, in this population, where do they reside? It's estimated that close to 70% actually live in the rural areas. So that's a huge population. You're talking about close to 800 million in the continent living in the rural areas. If you look at a few of the countries that are represented here, Rwanda is 73%, Kenya is 75%, Tanzania is 70%, Burundi is 89%, Uganda 85%, and Cameroon 78%, just a few. So you can see that most of our population live in rural areas. They depend on subsistence farming. Housing is still a challenge. Their kind of economic activity is from hand to mouth, getting just enough for the families. And these are actually opportunities we can look at. When you look at the rural areas, they have a specific challenge in themselves. Most of our produce that is eaten in the cities come from the rural areas. We have most of our population living in the rural areas with very good products coming out, but we have a challenge on high costs on inputs. We have a challenge in assessing the market. In most of the times, the farmers actually get a fraction of what they ought to get. So at the end of the day, they do not have information on new prices. They still use very, very difficult ways of production. So at the end of the day, it becomes a cyclic cycle. Where the population lives in the rural areas, they are struggling to meet ends meet, and it becomes a challenge all the time. When you look at what every government would want to see, we want to move from where we live at the moment to a better life. We want to transform the societies. We want to transform the socioeconomic status of our populations. That is the dream of every government. That's the dream across for every individual. But at the end of the day, we have to answer certain fundamental questions. The questions we have: how do we then transform our rural areas? For this transformation to take place, I think as government, we must really invest in those areas. This is the area we have the highest population, we have the highest number of voters, we have the highest number of consumers. Apart from investing, from what we discussed yesterday, providing services to the general population, we also as governments must give incentives to encourage the private sector to invest in the rural areas. If any country has to transform, it has to start from the rural areas. If we have to move forward, we have to start from the rural areas. Why? Because these areas have huge potential. This potential can be accelerated if we use ICTs properly. But maybe we need to ask ourselves then, what is it that the rural population needs? So that it's not a development agenda that is developed in an air-conditioned room and transported to the rural areas. When you look at the rural population, as I said, it is subsistence-based. They base on basic production of agricultural produce. So what the farmers need really is the market. So all that we really need to invest in ICT, apart from processing their birth certificates, death certificate, we are processing their driving licenses. I think we need to invest more in actually providing information on markets for them to know. We have a lot of women groups, we have a lot of self-help groups within the continent. We actually need to tap on those so that they can see what they need to produce, they can see what is in demand, they can see new techniques of production, and also they can see where they can actually produce the right produce that they can sell in good price. Because at the end of the day, the dream in every village is to move from the roadside, instead of selling under the scorching sun, for motorists who will come and pass, or a few customers who will come and pass. At the end of the day, those women on the roadside are struggling to make ends meet. Those products can be accessed to the market. They can actually go to the supermarket. And so we can have direct from the village to the supermarket. You can remove the middleman, and you can actually create a whole dynamic altogether. But for us to do this, there are a number of things we have to do. We have to invest in capacity building. We have to build capacity so that even developing software that can address the challenges of the rural population can be developed by young men and women who understand the village. It's very difficult, for example, for somebody from Europe to understand the thinking of a villager and to understand the basic things that they need. But if we as governments, if we invest in actually building capacity for the young men and women, they will develop appropriate softwares that can actually be used, that is very basic, and will be using the mobiles, and they will get the information that they need. You can develop across every sector, because at the end of the day, there is latent creativity in the rural population, which actually understands the challenges. Because if we just put infrastructure and we don't develop the content to use that infrastructure, it's just like putting water pipes and no supplying of water. At the end of the day, the village will still have to go to the river. But we want to get the water to the home. And this is actually the area we can invest in. Some of the challenges that the village people in the rural areas are looking at, their means of production. Sometimes the crops are invested with diseases, and I think there was a very good presentation today, particularly by M-Farming. And those are really the initiatives that we need to encourage and build, because at the end of the day, that subsistence farmer has invested 2 acres for tomatoes. Then one morning, because of tomato blight, it's all dead, and it's all gone. 3 months job, 3 months work is gone, and they have to start from scratch. But if actually they get the right quality seeds, the right pesticides, they know the time to plant and the time to harvest, they will actually time the market. This is the kind of thing that we really need to invest in order for us to move, so that we move from providing as a government services to actually providing value that can make a difference. The other area, a lot of communities have a passion for livestock. And you'll find in some of the communities across Africa, go to North Nigeria, go to Namibia, go to East Africa, you have communities who have a lot of passion for their cattle. They have a cultural significance. And sometimes, when there is drought, they lose everything. So you get somebody who has 1,000 cattle 1 month, the next month they have zero. They have all died. But if we can connect the demand for meat and supply of cattle, we can actually advise the farmers when to sell. Using mobiles, we can actually warn the farmers, say there is going to be a drought, we'll lack rain for the next 6 months. So sell your livestock, just remain with a few that you can manage. That way, you can actually convert that livestock into cash. Then, when the rainy season starts, they can start investing and building again. That is actually how we can use ICT to make a difference in our villages. Because at the end of the day, the community is asking, apart from getting my birth certificate, what can I do to improve my lifestyle? We have a lot of people in the villages who actually are very good in doing crafts. And we see in most of the time we wait for near the national parks or near hotels, you get some of these crafts are being sold very cheaply because at the end of the day they depend on the people who come to buy. But if we actually invest in rural areas, and as my brother indicated, we need electricity, you need all the other services, and you invest so that people who reside in the rural areas who produce these items, which are of very high quality, can actually start even virtual shops. So that at the end of the day, you combine ICT with the courier sector so that you can produce. During Valentine, you can actually create very nice products and sell them over the internet. You will sell a lot of these things, and you will find that creativity in the village will actually grow. So that at the end of the day, you are changing the dynamics in the villages. I'm just about to finish. If you look at medical, on the health side, we actually indicated that we have challenges, and some of the things that we can actually think is about Skype. We have shortage of doctors, and Professor has indicated very well some of the challenges we encounter, but some of the solutions that we can actually invest in as governments, in our medical facilities, in our health centers, we can actually invest in ICT so that the complicated cases can actually be referred to professionals, to experts, who may be based even in other cities, but we can have collaboration so that we can be able to contact them and actually Skype and get the right medication. Yesterday, we watched some very rich cultural presentation, and this is one of the examples of the things that run across the continent. This is actually one of the areas that we can tap into in our rural areas so that this kind of entertainment can be turned into a commercial activity that can enrich the lives of the citizens across. This will change the dynamics because then ICT has a direct relevance on the economic activity of the population. In conclusion, I'd like to mention that whenever there are challenges, there are always opportunities. The challenges in the villages present great opportunities. Even when you find the areas where we actually need ICT, if we incentivize, we give incentives to the private sector, we can make a difference. Just like what we can see in one of the villages in Malawi, where there was a challenge, people crossing the road, and somebody came up with the idea, and it actually works. It made a difference. And these are some of the things that we can see. The challenges we experience in the continent can be turned into great opportunities. And what will happen is we will transform, once we transform the village, we will transform the entire country. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Juma, for this insight about what can be done to really support socio-economic development and economic growth using ICT in various segments, which is very relevant for people living in rural areas. So without further ado, and being very mindful about the time, we'd like to invite our second presenter, Dr. Terry van Gevelt. Dr. Terry is the project manager of the Smart Village Initiative, and is a research associate and affiliated lecturer at the Center of Development Studies in the University of Cambridge. He is a senior member of the St. Edmund's College, Cambridge, and previously Terry has been a visiting scholar at Seoul National University and Korea Rural Economic Institute. Terry holds a Bachelor of Science with honors from the Department of Economics, University of Warwick, and a Master of Philosophy and PhD degrees from the Center of Development Studies, University of Cambridge. So please again join me to welcome our presenter who is going to present ICT Innovation, how to make village smart. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction and the chance to talk here today at the forum. So it's going to be a bit of a brief talk. What I'm going to talk about in particular are ICT innovations, making villages smart. So just a quick word about the term here, smart villages. We've all heard a lot about smart cities. So these are cities that the vision is that ICT plays a huge role in these cities, connects people, it improves services, governance, and you've got the Internet of Things as a big issue at the moment. And really what you're looking for then is to improve livability in urban areas. So considering, we've had some statistics just come out from the previous presentations, about 47% of the world's population still lives in rural areas, and among these 47%, about 70% of the world's poor are in rural areas. So the Smart Villages Initiative takes this, borrows a lot from the Smart Cities framework and says we need something parallel to that, a rural analog. Okay, so I think this presentation is really well placed because I don't have to go in and explain how these different kinds of ICT innovations can affect a variety of development outcomes. I mean, we've seen in terms of education, food security, health and welfare, democratic engagement, local business, how much potential there is for ICT innovations to play a big role in rural development. But really, if you look at the literature, if you look at what's going on in terms of, if you look at the reports that have to be filed for a lot of donors, for example, a lot of ICT innovations that on paper look like they're going to have a huge impact, fall short in different ways. Some of the ways, for example, may be that the actual impact is different than what was envisioned, or that the initiative just isn't sustainable. So if you look through and you look at what are the reasons why this doesn't seem to work too well, you get to, well, I've just put two main areas. One is the fact that a lot of these initiatives are really led from the supply side, so you've got a good idea that's kind of shoeboxed into a situation. They don't take into account the local context, what's actually needed. The other area that's really important are the enabling conditions. So these include things like regulation, good standards. But really, a really big thing that I don't think has been mentioned yet is physical infrastructure. So that's what, in my role in the Smart Villages Initiative, that's what we're really concerned about. So we're looking particularly at modern energy access. So in the case of ICT, we're talking about electricity. And electricity, I mean, not having access to electricity is just a huge barrier. ICT is completely dependent on electricity. So, I mean, there's a fundamental relationship going on over there. It's an area that's surprisingly often overlooked. And, I mean, that has huge consequences. I guess a good way to contextualize it a little bit is if we think about villages that are connected to the grid. So often an ICT project will come in and say, okay, there's a grid connection here, but there isn't that secondary step looking at what kind of electricity is actually coming through there. Is it reliable? How many hours per day? Is it predictable? And then if we look at what are termed off-grid villages, so the more remote villages that are not connected to an electricity grid, bringing these ICT innovations in is even more complicated because you have to bring in an energy source as well, and one that is going to be sustainable in the long run. Just to bring home the scale of what's going on here, these figures are a few years old, but it's in millions, and this is how many people are estimated to not have access to electricity. These figures are probably on the low end for a lot of, on the low end just because the way that we're measuring this is pretty nominal. So just, you know, does the village have an electricity connection is often the way that this is measured. So we're looking at a few years ago, almost 1.5 billion people without access to electricity, and in sub-Saharan Africa, 585 million. So it's a big barrier at the moment. These are some interesting projections that have come from the IEA. So the UN has this thing called Sustainable Energy for All, 100% access by 2030. If we're to hit that, this is the future. In terms of rural areas, only about 30% can be connected to the grid feasibly, and the other 70% will largely remain off-grid, which means that they'll rely a lot on home-based systems, solar home systems, solar lanterns, for example, or mini-grids. So this is the area that we're really focusing on, the off-grid area. So just a little bit about what we're doing then. So we're very policy oriented. We're mindful of the gap that exists between different stakeholders, particularly academia and policy. So what we're looking at doing is to really try and understand better what the necessary conditions are to achieve sustainable electricity provision, the access for rural villages among a variety of stakeholders. But what we're really also interested in is that second point there, integrating that access to electricity with other pillars of rural development, among which ICT is absolutely key. So we're very interested in making sure that that energy actually comes out to be used productively. And of course, we're mindful of the current situations and what can be done. So we're also trying to make sure that we can leverage as much private sector investment as possible. Really, that has a lot to do with just the sheer amount of resources out there and our goal for sustainability. In terms of outcomes, it's pretty optimistic, I guess, but we're looking for better informed policies and more effective initiatives. A little bit about the organisation. So we're based at Cambridge and Oxford. We're multidisciplinary, so we've got different specialties throughout the team. We're funded by 2 charitable foundations, one of which has a mandate that focuses primarily on the Commonwealth. And we have our key partners are really national science academies, who are often very influential in terms of preparing reports for policy. And we also have some on-the-ground partners, Practical Action and the Energy and Resources Institute. We're active in 6 regions at the moment. We're currently working in 3. We started first in East Africa in June last year. And so, I mean, one really great thing about this is that because we're operating over 6 different regions, we can see what is consistent across the regions or what can be learned from different areas. In terms of in each region, we've got a suite of activities that we cover out. So first, I guess the flagship events are 6 international workshops. And the first one was in Arusha. And we just had one in Borneo, so just part of Malaysia. And so these are really our flagship events, and what they do is they bring together a lot of different... So they bring together different stakeholders to engage in this issue. So people from government, people from the private sector, entrepreneurs, financiers, academics, and there's people from the region as well. So those are our flagship events. Then we run some forward look workshops, and what these do is they look at, okay, in the next 10 years, what technologies are coming forward, and how can we already start to think about development issues rather than just having scientists develop the ideas in isolation. We've got some entrepreneurial competitions. A big thing that we're looking to do is to document case studies, but not just successes, failures as well, because there's a lot to learn from that. Impact evaluations is something that we're doing as well. This is really important if we want to be able to showcase what's going on. How does access to electricity impact ICT innovations and then the development outcomes? So we've got 2 of these starting up, one in Rwanda actually, and that one's really interesting because it started with an NGO and a private sector company that actually met for the first time in our workshop in Arusha, and they hit it off and they work together now to start up a mini hydro scheme in Musanze. And we've come on now to use our expertise at the universities to really document it, to build in an impact evaluation so we can see what's going on and hopefully get some evidence that we can use to scale things up. The other one that we're looking at is in Sarawak with the University of Malaysia. And that one is actually looking at measuring the impact of ICT on really remote communities. So, I mean, these will take a couple years to get the results out, but I think they'll be really interesting findings. Then we also do technical reports, policy briefs, and an edited book that's geared towards policymakers that consists of essays from leading experts. And we hold final workshops to disseminate pretty much all this information. They're in each of the 6 regions, so we'll hold the final workshop for East Africa here in Kigali in September. And then we've got 2 final ones, one in Brussels for the European Union, and then one for the United Nations as well. So these are our activities. I couldn't go into too much depth because of the time, but please do catch me afterwards if you'd like to talk any more about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Terry, for this presentation. We would like to move to the panel discussion, which is in line with the title of this session of the afternoon. We're going to talk about removing barriers for ICT investment in local government. So I'd like to invite our panelists to come on stage. We'd like to invite Dr. Terry. Please join us on the stage on front. We'd like also to invite Mr. Juma, who presented before you, also to join on the stage. And we have also another panelist among us, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Local Government, who is with us. Vincent Munyeshaka is going to also join the panel of this afternoon. And we also going to invite Professor Robert Jalango Akelo, who presented just before we started this session on the trend in the use of multimedia smartphones for medical diagnosis in remote area, also to join. Thank you. We had the opportunity to hear from the panelists before. The three of the 4 panelists, but I think we have also an opportunity here. We have, as we say, the Permanent Secretary who is standing in for the Minister of Local Government of Rwanda, who has also some few perspective, and would like to give him an opportunity because Rwanda has started a process of transformation using ICT. Especially, we have been focusing on providing service and enhancing service delivery. Currently, service delivery is provided at the local government level, which is well structured from province, district, up to the sector, and some of the services are even pushed to the cell level. But with introduction of e-government services, there will be a lot of change also which are coming. So he has some insight he wants to share with us on about also what they are doing, and probably also some of the barrier and in the context of the government plans. So I'd like to give you the opportunity for a few minutes to share some of the insight you have, passions. And I'd like to tell the audience that's a really good opportunity to ask our audience to share your insights, and also to why not even challenge some of the panelists to get this debate need to be a live debate that can help us really address the real issues that the rural area are facing. So with these few words, dear PS, if you can give us your insight before we
Thank
go
you.
discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Deje. First of all, let me start by appreciating this opportunity given to Minister of Local Government to talk about this important item related to rural development and e-government services. So it is true that the Minister in charge of local government is coordinating the entire government entities and implementation of all government programs, be it programs related to economic, even social activities. It is implemented by local government. This requirement of delivering government programs has put us on forefront where we need to make sure that we efficiently deliver services. That's why we have embraced the new approach of using ICT solution in order to speed delivery of different government programs. And I think this is even in line with our Vision 2020 and even our economic development and poverty reduction strategy, where we are looking at developing a knowledge-based economy, where ICT is at the forefront of this agenda. So I think we have seen some good initiatives in order to change ways of doing business, moving from paperwork to paperless work, where I would like to share with you some good initiative we have initiated in order to properly deliver to our population. I'm going to try to pick some sectors. I'm not going through all sectors. For instance, as you may know, in our health and agriculture sector, we have embraced the usage of ICT solution, where, for instance, in health sector, we have a clear management information system that allow health centers, hospitals, health workers to share timely information with central government represented by Minister of Minisante. In agriculture sector, we come up with a software called Isoko, where, for instance, this system helps to share with the population timely information on prices on different markets, and this is benefiting to our population such that we can take evidence-based decision in terms of buying, in terms of selling, having all information on all markets across the country. Another area where we have seen ICT solution playing a big role is financial inclusion. As we speak now, and here I'm referring to the figure I have for 2012, 72% of our population is having access to financial services through banks, through microfinance institution, and other form of saving and institution, where ICT actually is playing a big role in terms of making accessible financial services to our population using like mobile money transfers. And actually, what we're trying to see now, we are seeing another form of illiteracy. We have seen that our population is embracing usage of ICT solution in financial services, where you shall see some people with PhDs, with degrees, are becoming somehow financial illiterate because they are not embracing this new idea of using ICT solution to transfer money and even to have access to other form of financial services. In our governance structures and administration structures, we have tried, for instance, to come up with some video conference facilities to facilitate communication with local government authorities, and this has allowed us to reduce on costs and to properly manage time. And also we have even tried to put in place document tracking and workflow system, where what I can say now, local government is trying to embrace this new ICT technology, first of all to foster delivery, but also to reduce on the cost of doing business in local government. Also, we were using social media facilitation mainly to facilitate that kind of information flow and communication between the central government and local government. As far as financial management is concerned, I think we have one international financial management system at central level, but also we have managed to develop an easy-to-use accounting and reporting system for local government to make sure that financial management is properly done, reports are timely produced, and they are meeting the required level of quality. So I think we have come up with numerous initiatives, and that was done in partnership with the central government. And as you have seen yesterday, I think yesterday you have received a presentation on Rwanda Online. I would like to take this opportunity to inform you that local government is in a preparation phase of automating, for instance, civil registration services, and we will go down to even automate local revenue collection. And we have tried even to create awareness among the population by putting in place what we call village knowledge hubs. And yes, those are the initiatives we have seen so far, but there are challenges. There are barriers where we still need to maximize of the usage of ICT in local government. One of them being change management, being mindset. We need to prepare our workforce in local government. We need to prepare our population to be ready to use this new ICT-driven solution. So barriers are numerous, but what I can mention again is the issue of affordability of ICT facilities and services, issue of accessibility, where, for instance, we were having some sectors with low connectivity level, and even without any kind of connectivity, where we are looking at, for instance, at developing renewable source of energy to make sure that energy is accessible to our population. Briefly, that is the status in local government, but in summary, as far as I'm talking about barriers, I'm talking about insufficiency we need to link them to opportunities in local government, and we have tried to come up with a study that is giving out all potentialities in local government as far as investment in ICT is concerned, and even investment in normal business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary Vincent. I forgot, for the audience, I forgot to introduce the Permanent Secretary who, before joining the Ministry of Local Government, worked at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, the Ministry of it's called Minecofin, where he served as the Director of Corporate Planning, Director of Government Investment Portfolio Management, and Executive Secretary of the Financial Sector Development Program from 2007 to 2012. And also he was the former head of the Financial Market Development Section at the Central Bank of Rwanda. And Mr. Vincent also served as on the board of directors of several institutions, including La Banque Commerciale du Rwanda, which is currently known as INM Rwanda, and also Capital Market Authority and the tea factories of Gisakura and Mata. He holds a diplôme d'études supérieures in banking from the Institut Technique de Banque, Paris, in Paris, France, and a bachelor degree in international economics from the National University of Rwanda. Thank you very much for your insight and what are the different initiatives which are taking place in the government. We'd like to take time to engage with the audience. I'm sure you have questions, you have insight that you'd like to share with us vis-a-vis this, how to remove barriers, what can we do as government, what can we do as private sector, but not only that, academia and all the civil society, or you probably have some questions about what the present presentation our panelists had before. So please, the floor is yours. Just raise your hands. We're going to give you 1 minute. Just be straightforward with a question. If it's a comment, not more than 2 minutes. We can see a hand there. We can see a second hand that side. So we're going to take 3 questions. And after that, we'll have the opportunity to give the opportunity to panelists to comment.
Thank you very much.
Your name and
my name is Cyrus. From Rwanda. Actually, for our country's experience, I think our PSC has shared more. So I'll go to the last presenter. When you talk about smart village, so I get to things that I want to, first of all, infrastructure development. On infrastructure development, how do you overcome the issue of electricity so that you achieve your e-smart villages? Then, secondly, it's about the issue of the language. You did say that you provide materials. Are the materials translated to the local language? To end, what are the criteria you do use choosing the village? If I heard well, you said in Rwanda you went to Musanze. Why did you choose Musanze? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a question over there. So remember to introduce your name and where you work from so the audience can know you.
Thank you. My name is Kim, Koika ICT advisor, working for National Capacity Building Secretariat in Rwanda. First of all, I want to thanks to my ICT and the CTO and sponsors to make this valuable forum. My question can be addressed to the Honorable Francis Minalov. I saw and I heard the figure of the population in the rural area, around 73% to 80%. In Rwanda case, in a view of such kind of the dense population living in the rural area, I think there are some tendency at the central government level focusing investment development, including the e-governance, to the urban area or city or the capital. So I think there are some, they may have some conflict with the central government to overcome this kind of the tendency. So I wish to know what is your specific conflict or problem or the concern you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim. We have, we can continue if, yes.
Okay, let me introduce myself first. My name is K.H. Yoon, working for MyICT as an e-government advisor, working with DDL actually. We have a similar experience in my home country, Korea, in rural area development in ICT. Most challenge, the biggest challenge in developing rural ICT was that how to reduce the IT illiteracy for the rural people. Because most of rural people consist of very old men or some outside from the rich men or urban area. So my question would be, in developing rural area, any strategy you have to reduce the IT illiteracy in shortened time? I think that would be the very critical things to develop the rural area. Okay.
Thank you. So you're raising the importance of digital literacy as a critical success factor for e-government. Maybe the last one, and then we can give the opportunity to panelists.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Akizimana Olivier, student of University of Rwanda. My question is addressing to Professor Robert. In his presentation, he has talked about the use of smartphone for disease, for diagnosis of disease. So I think that the use of smartphone for diagnosis use some chemical radiation like X-ray. Those radiation can cause harmful effect to human body. So I would like to know what are the measures that has been taken in order to prevent those harmful effects that can be happening to the human body. Thank you.
Thank you. So we turn to the panelists. Maybe we'll start with Dr. Terry for the first question, and then we'll have the permanent secretary, and finally we'll have Professor Robert.
Yeah, great. Thanks for your question. Well, 3 questions, all really good. So then the first one then is, can you all hear me? It's good,
yes,
right? Yeah.
Yes.
So how do you overcome the issue of electricity, right? So that's a huge question, and I guess I should have stated, I'm not doing a cop-out here, but we're only less than a year into the project, so we hope to have more findings at the end. But the way it's been progressing is really interesting, just concentrating on rural areas. If you look at the, I guess, the political economy of rural electrification, in the past, for example, in the States, in Ireland, all over the place, in South Korea as well, there's been a huge social element to it. So it's been largely government-led, right? And there's been cross-subsidization between urban areas and rural areas to make sure that finance is going okay. But I guess in the last 20 years, there's been a huge shift away from that towards redefining rural electricity from being a public good to a private good. So operating more in that context, it's really difficult. But there are some really interesting things going on. So in the areas we're looking at, so off-grid villages, there are 2 main ways. You either have a home system, solar home system, something like that, or a solar lantern at the very bottom of the energy ladder, or you have mini-grids. And for the home systems, which are adequate for a lot of good ICT innovations, progress has been astounding. There are business models out there that are sustainable. There are huge issues in terms of standards, though, poor quality goods coming in. Recycling has become a big issue as well. So there's a whole suite of enabling conditions that aren't there yet. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of companies selling these, and they're doing that in a completely business-oriented way. For mini-grids, though, which is where you get the power you need to actually do a lot of productive enterprise, and then from there, I mean, in conjunction with ICT Innovations, you get some really cool things happening. Higher value added agriculture, for example. That's a different story because mini-grids are pretty expensive and they don't make much money for the private sector. There are some innovative financing models going through where the government essentially covers a lot of the risk on it. We had some financiers talking about securitizing lots of these mini-grid projects into one big portfolio. So there's a lot of exciting things going on here, but to put it short, we don't have the answer for this yet. In terms of materials, so I guess I wasn't clear about it. What I was talking about there were briefs and technical reports more for policymakers. I think I'm not involved in this side, but we do have a part of our initiative is looking at disseminating key information to local communities. So I imagine for that we would definitely have the local language and work with partners on the ground. About choosing villages, what criteria? So again, I didn't make this clear, and I apologize for that, but we're not going out there and making any smart villages. It's a platform. In terms of the project in Musanze and the one in Borneo, Malaysia, or Sarawak, those are impact evaluations, right? So they're quite opportunistic because you need a lot of things to coalesce together to be able to do that. We're coming at a really good time where the mini hydro plant's just coming online soon, so we can do a before and after, compare it with another village in the region. The same goes for in Malaysia. We're just coming in at the right time. These are people that we met at our workshops that we got to know, and so I guess we don't have a criteria for that other than what you would need to do a rigorous impact evaluation. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So let's take maybe the next one.
Okay, thank you. I think I got one question on the tendency of focusing on urban areas rather than having a kind of equitable development approach. I think in Rwanda we don't have such kind of issue because we have a clear formula to share national budget to local government, and we are trying to have a kind of equitable distribution of development budget across local government, and here I'm thinking about distribution of budget to district. And even if you try to see the margin between that budget, the margin is very, very minimum, where, for instance, the district budget is varying between 10 to 14 billion Rwandan franc. Of course, in our development approach, we have tried to come up with some specific potentialities for each and every district, and districts are developing development plans according to different specificities in terms of economic opportunities and other opportunities that are available in different districts. Of course, we have a clear, deliberate choice of looking at our city of Kigali, but also we have managed to focus on some urban area. For instance, here I'm thinking about the secondary cities, where we are trying to develop infrastructure in these secondary cities to make sure that our population is, and we have even a clear target in terms of urbanization, where we are expecting more than 35% of our population to live in urban area, whereas 65% will be living in rural area. So in summary, we managed to come up with a clear formula to share the national budget among local government entities to make sure that we have equitable development at each level of district. The other issue was from June on reducing IT illiteracy. I think in partnership with Minister of my ICT, we came up with a clear and comprehensive literacy campaign in ICT, and we are trying to put in place even village centers, telecenters, and business development centers where our population are invited to take part to some form of training and ICT campaign. And of course, the gap is still high. We need to intensify and see how we can quickly make our population IT literate. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those insights, PS. Let's hear from the question addressed to Professor Robert.
Thanks very much. The issue of radiation from mobile phones has been researched on very broadly, and the final findings are that mobile phones, the radiation levels are not harmful, especially to the brain. Therefore, let those fears be allayed. There is no problem with mobile phone radiation. Therefore, when used for diagnosis, there is no harmful effect which emanates from the phones. In any case, we use these phones. All of us here have mobile phones, most of smartphones or iPhones. Therefore, use it for normal voice and SMS and name it. So why not use it for diagnosis? The attachments that are there depends on what one is measuring. One phone can be used for can be used for different purposes, and all that is required is the sensor to connect to the phone. There has been an experiment done where people have, without even sensors attached, very sensitive phones, smartphones, to the body, and the heartbeats can be transmitted to the medical doctor, and from the oscilloscopes, the displays can show how the heart is behaving. Same is with the pulsing, the blood flow, and so let us embrace mHealth in the rural areas. It will save money because the cost of traveling of the health workers and the cost of transporting people on wheelbarrows is so high. So I am all for mHealth, and I think when you talk about rural areas, malaria, cholera, and all those diseases can be tracked. Epidemics can be tracked using the mobile phones. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. You're really a preacher of mHealth, and I'm sure most of the people here, if they are not yet converted, they are very soon going to be converted to this. Maybe before we take this question, there's one of the barriers that we didn't touch here, which is infrastructure and also affordability of the service. And that's where most of the private sector, that's where they play the role, connecting more and more areas in our respective countries. Most of the time starts where it makes more business sense in cities, and later on start expanding in other parts of the country. So I'd like to hear maybe from one of our telco companies here. I could see Salma on the back from MTN, which is the largest, currently the largest telecommunication operators, and also in terms of market share, not only for voice but also for data. So what are you doing to make? I'll put you on the spot. So what are you doing to make connectivity more affordable? I understand currently we've about 60% of someone can bring the microphone to Salma. I understand currently you have about 60% coverage of the country for your 3G network, but it's not only about internet, it's also about devices, because it has been decreased over years, but it's still quite an obstacle for many people who cannot get devices upfront because the cost is still it's high, not very high it used to be. So can you give some of the insight of what you're doing to bring connectivity more affordable, to have also more people owning devices, these smart devices that Professor Robert was talking about?
Thank you, Didier. MTN has done a lot in terms of infrastructure rollout. In fiber rollout, you have more than 1,200 kilometers across the country. All districts have WiMAX. We offer broadband also using microwave necessary. If talking about mobile penetration or mobile devices, MTN has the widest network coverage, and in our plan every year we roll out more and more, even in rural areas, which is now our focus. True, devices are not very affordable, especially in rural areas, but you have a lot of initiatives in place, and more are coming, where we can actually allow, give devices maybe in installments, all these ideas, and we look, we are embracing partnership. We did it with Mobisol when we were offering installment plan for solar panels, and we want to do the same for devices and more and more. So we have very affordable devices now. It may not be affordable for rural areas, but we are already in discussion with different partners. We'll bring more devices that will be affordable, and why not actually to allow them to have it in installment. So we are here to serve our population, and any idea partnership that you love to have with MTN is welcome. And we believe in rural areas. We believe that we also have, that's where our big revenue stream will come from. So we believe in mHealth and all the, we believe in mobile as the way to go. So a lot of initiatives are in place, and we will do more. We've in terms of infrastructure, we're okay, and devices, a lot of initiatives are in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Salma. We're heading towards the end, but I saw a gentleman there, and he has been raising his hand. So we're going to take the last intervention from our colleague. He's going to introduce himself.
Thank you, moderator, DG.
1 minute, please.
Yes, my name is Robert Ford from the ICT Chamber and CEO of Filmax. I have just two questions. One for Dr. Keller and another for Professor Terry. For Professor Keller, it's not a question. I want to read you something from, it's very short, something from The Hidden Dangers of Cell Phone Radiation by Sue Kovach. And this is what they say. But there is a huge public health crisis looming from one particular threat, EMR, which would be electromagnetic radiation from cellular phones. Both the radiation from handsets and from the tower-based antennas carrying the signals, which studies have linked to development of brain tumors, genetic damage, and other exposure-related conditions. This is a report I did not subscribe to. And to to Professor Terry, it's very good that there is smart village initiatives that is being undertaken by different countries to be able to take technology to the citizens. But although yours is a platform, have you thought about the dangers of the handsets, and have you considered anything to do with e-waste management? How does your organization support initiatives in electronic waste management so that we don't have these little children playing around with schematic diagrams thrown around in banana plantations and tea plantations? Thank you.
Thank you. Professor, you would like to start? Okay.
Thanks very much indeed. I have read that particular article myself, but it's not authenticated. We've been to several conferences addressing the issue of radiation from mobile phones, and the conclusion, and it's fully agreed that the radiation that comes from the actual handset is minimal. The earlier versions of mobile phones, of course, had higher radiation levels than the the new ones. Coming to the base stations, yes, base stations do radiate. They do radiate, and the radiation, the frequencies which they use are not harmful to the human body. There have been some resistance from the citizenry, especially when one comes to looking for wayleaves for the base stations, based on the articles such as the one which you read. When I'm involved in testing of the electromagnetic radiation from base stations, in Kenya, and we know that they are not harmful. So we get a lot of literature. I wish you could go further and read some more, especially the British report on the radiation issue. There's a big report which is researched, and it's not only that. In Israel, there's also a big report on the same issue in the US. So I will just say that since we use the phones, let's keep using the phones. Don't fear. You may tumble and fall down and hurt yourself. I think that's could be more frequent than the radiation that you'd get from your mobile phone. So just use the mobile phone. Don't bother about those risks, and I don't think those radiation risks do exist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Dr. Terry.
Yeah, thanks for your question. I guess on the management of e-waste, I guess we can call it, or so I mean, it came up a lot in our workshop in Arusha, primarily with standalone home systems that rely on a solar panel and a battery. Basically, there was nothing in place to dispose of these properly. A lot of these companies, though, when the set has problems or it breaks down, will go in and offer to collect them. But I mean, there are so many issues going on here. There's the misuse of systems as well, which contributes a lot to the waste problem. So I guess a few months ago, something that I did on the back of that was to look through and see who's working on what. Turns out that in my very own university, there's a group looking at battery recycling. So we've just started working with them, and so they're in the material science department. So we're exploring what we can do there. In terms of solar panels or standalone home systems more generally, we came across a group at the University of Edinburgh that seemed to be making good strides forward. So I guess we don't want to, if there's a good initiative going forward, we prefer to lend our support than try and do it ourselves. So we're also looking at trying to work with them about it. But it's a big issue that we've got to get on top of, or it will just, it'll become a big shock in the near future. Thanks.
Thank you very much to the panelists today, Mr. Juma, Dr. Terry, Mr. Vincent, and Professor Robert. Thank you very much for all your insights. We had an interesting topic, and of course, time is never enough to be able to discuss everything. But I'd like to invite anyone who has a specific question or request to directly engage with the panelists. So I'd like to thank you, and I'd like also to ask the audience again to really help me recognize and give a clap to the panelists today for this session. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure also to moderate this session.